Good morning, everybody. I'm California State Assembly member Laura Friedman, and I'm here to talk to you today about one of our biggest public health crises in California, and that's traffic violence. Every year, tens of thousands of Americans die on the road. In 2021, more than 4,200 Californians lost their life to a car. Over 1,000 of these individuals were pedestrians. For too long, we've called these deaths accidents, but we know that the majority of these deaths and injuries can be prevented. And we have seen, despite our efforts to move to Vision Zero, a time when we don't have people killed just walking or riding their bikes, we've seen an increase in serious accidents and deaths for pedestrians and cyclists across California steadily year after year, with an over 10% rise in these accidents. Now, according to the National Transportation Safety Board, speeding is a factor in 31% of all traffic fatalities. So if we want to stop traffic fatalities and injuries, we've got to slow people down. So speed cameras, using cameras for automated enforcement, are a proven way of slowing down drivers and saving lives. A 2005 systemic review of 14 studies of speed safety cameras in Canada, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand found that crashes were reduced between 5 and 69%, and injury reductions were between 12 and 65%, and fatality reductions were between 17 and 71%. Evidence has shown that speed cameras are incredibly effective at slowing down drivers and also at stopping repeat offenders. Now, in New York City, which instituted speed cameras in the last few years, they've seen a 73% reduction in speeding. Between 2013 and 2021, nearly half of those who received a speeding ticket never received a second ticket. They learned their lesson. And in Chicago, 80% of people never received more than one ticket. Now, I know that everybody hated the old red light camera program in California. I hated it too. So when we started working on this bill 4 years ago, we tried to design something that was the antidote to the failed red light camera program. And this bill has gone out of its way to address every concern that's been brought up by people about transparency, about equity, about privacy, and about the punitive nature of the old red light camera program. So, in the old red light camera program, those tickets were criminal. They carried the same penalty as if a police officer gave you a ticket. Now, under our bill, unlike with getting a traditional speeding ticket, there's no points on your license, and the fine is nominal. Now, if you get a ticket from a uniformed officer, if you get pulled over, you're going to get a point on your license that can make your insurance rates go up, and your ticket's going to start at usually $250 and escalate quickly into the many hundreds of dollars. Under this program, your first ticket, assuming that you're not egregiously speeding, is a warning. And after that, if you get a second ticket, that ticket starts at just $50. Now, if you're low income, that $50 is cut in half to $25. And then there's a small escalator for every 10 miles an hour over the speeding limit you're going. Now, it's not a punitive ticket. It's not meant to be a gotcha. You have to be going at least 11 miles an hour over the speeding limit to get a ticket from one of these cameras. So if you're going 5 miles an hour over, 7 miles an hour over, you don't get a ticket at all. Now, we only will be placing these cameras on the highest injury networks, places where we already know we have a problem, where people have been killed or maimed, or where we've had over 4 calls for exhibitions of speed for street racing. The cameras can only take a picture of your license plate. There's no facial recognition technology used in this program. Again, you will only get a warning ticket for the first ticket, and after that, you'll get a nominal ticket. And this is not meant to be a cash cow for cities. So the cities can't put any of this revenue into their general fund. They can only use it to implement the program, and then they have to use any excess money right on those same streets to fund traffic calming measures, again, to slow down traffic. We have to have a public process before the cameras can be put in any single location so that we have community buy-in. And then we have to warn drivers before they come into zones where cameras are being used. Because again, our goal is to slow down traffic, not to give tickets. And here's the icing on the cake. If any particular camera location does not decrease the number of tickets that are issued, they can't use the camera anymore in that location unless they also do traffic calming. Because again, our goal is to slow down the cars, not to give a lot of tickets. So we have worked with equity groups. We have worked with all members of our communities on how to do this in a way that's fair and equitable. The cameras can't be placed only in certain kinds of neighborhoods. They have to be equitably placed throughout communities, in high-income neighborhoods and lower-income neighborhoods. We have to have a robust public process. So if a community says absolutely not, we don't want these in our neighborhoods, they won't go into those neighborhoods. But I also want to say that nationally, African American pedestrians are more than twice as likely to die in a traffic collision as white Americans. That's, on its face, inequitable. We have to do more to slow down traffic in our economically disadvantaged communities of color because they are bearing the brunt of traffic violence. Now, slowing down cars is also imperative for protecting children. Traffic collisions are still the #1 cause of death for children between ages of 5 and 14 in Los Angeles. I'm a mom. My daughter's 10 years old. What I worry about most when she goes out to walk around our neighborhood or to ride her bike is somebody speeding through our neighborhood, not caring about kids on the street, and God forbid, hitting my child. I know that these cameras will slow down traffic, and one of the places that the cameras are allowed to be used under our bill is in front of schools. And we've seen, unfortunately, too many awful incidents, including some in my own community, where children have lost their lives or lost limbs because of speeding cars. And my community is saying enough is enough. Cities are begging for more tools in the toolbox to slow down traffic. And remember, this is a pilot program. This bill says that we will have 6 cities in California pilot automated speed cameras for 5 years. Then we will collect data and see if the program works, to see if we need to make adjustments so that we can give our municipalities another tool to slow down traffic and save lives. Now I want to see if our next speaker, Councilmember Rahman, is here yet. So I don't think so. So I'm going to bring, who are we bringing up next? Carrie? Yeah, let's bring up, come on up, LADOT. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member. My name is Mackenzie Racy. I'm with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation, and I am so grateful to be here today. It has taken years of advocacy and dedication to get a speed safety camera pilot bill this far in California, and that would not be possible without the tireless commitment of Assembly Member Laura Friedman. LADOT is very proud to support this work, and we are very ready to get it over the finish line with you this year. We live in a city known for sunshine, but last year we had more victims of traffic violence than we had sunny days. In fact, in 2022, more people were killed by cars in Los Angeles than by guns. There are probably a dozen different ways to say it, but too many people are dying on our streets. And these crashes disproportionately impact low-income communities, people walking, people biking, our seniors, and our children. At LADOT, we are fighting this public health crisis with every engineering and street design tool that we have. That's why last year, we lowered the speed limit on nearly 200 miles of streets. We installed more than 175 individual safety treatments like speed humps and signals. We redesigned about 20 miles of our city streets and installed 40 miles of bike lanes. Where we make these investments, we see lower speeds and we see fewer crashes, which is why we are continuing to engage communities, to design streets, to secure funding, and to deliver these projects. But car crashes are now the leading cause of death for people under 30 across Los Angeles County. We cannot reverse the trend at that scale without also creating more accountability for reckless driving. And that's what AB 645 does. It gives us a new tool proven to change driver behavior. Speed safety systems provide reliable accountability for driving well above the legal speed limit. They rely on consistency to change driver behavior, not severe penalty. So these systems can reduce speeding with low fines no point on your driver's license, and no criminal penalty. AB 645 will allow us to try this new tool at the locations that need it the most, at our schools, in our neighborhoods, with street racing, and on the streets where traffic crashes and deaths persist. 312 people were killed by cars in Los Angeles last year. That is nearly a victim every day. So it really is time for us to expand the toolbox and reverse this trend. Thank you again to Assemblymember Friedman. And with that, I will introduce Councilmember Nithya Raman. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you so much to Laura, Assemblymember Friedman, a dear friend, and a guide in a lot of this work, for spearheading this legislation and for gathering us all here this morning. I also want to thank our city staff here and for so many of our advocates and community members who've been really pushing for safer streets in ways that we are hearing now for the first time in Los Angeles. There is a constituency for this, and it's growing and it's building because people see the real human cost of traffic violence on our streets over and over again. Last year, hundreds of people were killed on LA's streets. These are numbers that we do not have to tolerate. And as vehicles get larger, and as the federal government does very little to protect those who are outside of those vehicles, we have to use every tool in our toolbox to keep our people safe. And AB 645 is an excellent tool to do exactly that. Implementations like traffic signals, roadway reconfiguration, speed humps, speed tables, active transportation projects, these are all important too. And we've been doing that across the district and across the city. But these are projects that take a long time to implement, that require design time. Having automatic speed cameras, which are a fast and simple tool, will allow us to respond immediately to trouble spots, to respond to locations, for example, that are experiencing street racing, and help bolster our engineering work and make it stronger, make it more powerful, and make it effective in our city. On White Oak, for example, we've been putting in plastic bollards next to bike lanes, but all of those kinds of interventions, things that we can do across the district, they need support from other kinds of interventions for them to be really impactful. Automatic speed cameras are not going to be a panacea. They're not going to be a replacement for the deeper, harder engineering work that we need to do to arrest this increase in traffic violence. And I can also tell you that as we are crafting our proposed system here in Los Angeles, I will be making sure and working with all of my fellow council members to ensure that this system is distributed across our city and across our high injury network streets. We have so many miles of deadly streets, and we have to continue to prioritize our most deadly corridors for engineering improvements, but we need more tools right now for the rest of our high injury network. I've already introduced a motion directing LADOT to create a speed table program for our arterials. I view automated speed cameras as a similar tool that we can deploy exactly on these streets, on our arterials, which remain our deadliest roads. In a city as large as ours, where so many people are on the streets, we need depth and we need breadth. I also really want to say that the behavior change that this bill is pushing for, and this is really, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about behavior change and incentivizing behavior change. The behavior change is going to be really brought about by a consistent presence of an automatic speed camera. But that deployment of how the fines from this work, that can be reasonable, that can be reduced for those with less means. This is exactly the kind of measure we need more of from our government. We want our government to be consistent, to be fair, and to be focused on harm reduction and not punishment, and that's exactly what this tool and the careful, curated rollout of these pilot areas is going to allow us to do, and I couldn't be more grateful for our partnership with Assemblymember Friedman and with the DOT to making that happen. Thank you. Yes, my name is Nithya Raman. I'm the council member for the 4th District here in the city of Los Angeles. Welcome to my district.
We are waiting for our witnesses, our victims of traffic violence, and our advocates are on their way here. So while we're waiting for them, they should be here any minute. We'll take some questions. Yes. Yeah, this is an intersection that's also seen a high rate of injuries because it's a public park. So it draws people from all over Los Angeles. You have, as you can see, people going very quickly to try to go over the hill and get to work. And you have people trying to come and walk their dogs and go for a hike. And so I don't know if you saw the utility box. That wasn't our doing. It says slow down because people are known to speed over this hill and on this road.
Secondly, what's the logic between if you're lower income, you pay less, and if you break the law, you pay?
Well, the logic of paying less if you're low income is to make sure that people get the message and nobody wants to pay, whether it's $15 or it's $50 or $25, because $50 hitting the pocketbook of a high wealth individual is very different than $50 hitting the pocket of someone who's maybe making $50 a day. And all of a sudden, what seems like a nominal fine maybe to you, to them can be overwhelming, and the difference between being able to put food on the table that night. So I don't think it sends that kind of a message. I think that people, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you're caught in. So if you're caught in a low-income neighborhood and you're, of average means, you're still going to pay the higher fine.
Somebody's wealth or lack thereof in determining the ability to pay. Like, do I give you my taxes?
No, I believe that you could go in, for instance, you could send something in, and there's ways of. I think that you probably do show your taxes, and the court would then be able to let you pay, instead of $50, pay $25. I can find out for you how that's actually done. It may not be through tax returns. I'm not exactly sure how that's done. Yes. I don't have the specific Los Angeles data. Yeah, but the.
The numbers for cause of death will be coming from the county coroner's office, which provides. No, we do. That's what the data is drawing from, and McKinsey can add additional detail. But I also do want to say that the kinds of questions that you're asking about how the fines will be delineated between different groups, that's why it's important that this is a pilot. That's why it's important that we're working this out, that there's only going to be a handful of cameras across the city, and we'll be able to figure out the regulations that are going to make it operate in the simplest way possible and in the way that's not going to put a burden on drivers. We don't want that. That's not the goal. But I will say that the lowest income neighborhoods in our city are also the places where the most people die from traffic violence. They are the least safe streets in our entire city. And I value those lives. We all value those lives. And we have to find quick and dirty tools to be able to address that important public health issue. And this is one of those tools. And I think all of these questions are absolutely fair, absolutely accurate. And we can work those out in ways that make sense for Angelenos and for the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah. Councilman.
If I remember correctly, when it comes to the red light camera, they ultimately became optional about 10 years ago. So if someone gets a ticket,
well, I got a red light camera fine, and it was not optional for me. I had a court date. I'm not sure what. Do you know, McKinsey, about that? I don't know. I paid a fine with that, so I don't know what that's referring to. I apologize, but I can certainly look into it and get back to you. These fines are not intended to be optional. They are intended to create behavioral change.
We have the data in terms of overall crash reduction. For street racing, I don't know that there is specific data on that. But the idea is that we know that there are some roads that have been more attractive to people who are street racing and doing sideshows. So under this bill, because those locations have been used multiple times for that kind of reckless driving, for those exhibitions, they're eligible to be used for the cameras, and we're hoping that discourages people from using those very dangerous locations. In terms of the red light camera, that program had a lot of basic flaws, and so the fines were ultimately struck down by the courts. This bill looked at what was deemed to be non-enforceable, and we were able to sort of move away from that. So this is not a criminal charge. The red light camera program fell under the criminal charges. Think about where this goes in the code akin to a parking ticket, where it's a violation that goes to the vehicle itself. That avoids many of the issues with the red light camera program. Yeah.
So the company that will be managing and operating the system would be cameras.
That's up to the municipalities. We don't say in the law which vendor they have to use.
Communicating with one in advance.
I am not, but I don't know if LADOT is.
Not yet.
If the bill passes, they will then go through I'm sure, the regular procurement process. I haven't not. Yeah. Yes. Yes, go ahead. You know what? Let me introduce I'll come back to that. But why don't we introduce? We have Damian Kevitt from Streets Are for Everyone, and he's an advocate for street safety, and I want him to talk about his experiences and also those of some of our guests today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Damian Kevitt. I'm the executive director and founder of Streets Are for Everyone. I am here both as an advocate for safer roads, speaking on behalf of the hundreds of individuals who were killed last year, 312 individuals killed last year in Los Angeles, and the tens of thousands who were seriously injured. I'm also speaking to you as an advocate and as a victim myself. In February of 2013, I was cycling in Griffith Park and was hit, pinned underneath the car, and dragged nearly a quarter of a mile from the streets of Griffith Park onto and down the 5 freeway. So I know this subject, the subject of traffic violence, the subject of speeding and fatalities and serious injuries personally. And I'm telling you right now, enough is enough. Our city has become the Wild West. We have lawlessness on our roads. You can do so much infrastructure to make roads safer, but you have to have some degree of enforcement. AB 645 would provide equitable, safe, fair enforcement, give a tool that we can use to start reining in the unsafe speeding that's happening on our roads in Los Angeles. I could go on and on about how much we need to make the roads safer, but I want to introduce someone who has personally been recently impacted. This is his first media interview since he's been out of the hospital, where he's actually here advocating. He's now an advocate for safer roads. And I'm sorry, you need my name? Yeah, my name is Damian Kevitt. Do you want me to spell it? D-A-M-I-A-N-K-E-V as in Victor, I-T-T. Again, executive director and founder of Streets Are for Everyone, and I'm introducing Joshua Mora. I'm going to spell his name out. And again, this is his first press conference, and he's speaking as an advocate in this case. Now, no longer just as a victim. His name is Joshua, J-O-S-H-A-A, Mora, M-O-R-A. Joshua?
Hello, my name is Joshua Mora. I'm from Boyle Heights, and I'm 13 years old. On March 30th, I was crossing a crosswalk right after school to go get a haircut, but a speeding motorcyclist hit my leg, and then shortly after fled the scene. The number one reason people are speeding and getting in is people are thinking if they go to their destination as quick as possible, but they don't realize their surroundings. So they're putting people's lives in danger. So I think enough is enough. Stop speeding, please. Thank you.
Are you able to say in Espanol now?
I didn't practice.
What I can say is his mom is also here and can also take interviews in Espanol. So for those who are Spanish stations, so she's available as well. What's that? And for Spanish stations, go ahead there.
Hola, buenos días. Me llamo Sebastián Lozano, soy el director de distrito para la asambleísta Laura Friedman. ¿Y hay pregunta? Sí, que esa ley es muy importante. Es que en estas calles en la ciudad de Los Ángeles y las 5 otras ciudades donde vamos a hacer ese programa, ese programa va... La meta de ese programa es cambiar los behaviors de los conductores. Es que queremos salvar las vidas y con esas multas, la meta es para cambiar los behaviors de los conductores y es importante y vamos a hacer este programa en lugares donde hay muchos accidentes, donde hay, cerca de escuelas, o en barrios donde hay muchos como espectaculares de carros. Esa ley es importante para hacer el programa para cambiar lo que estamos viendo. Mira, puedes ver aquí ahorita qué rápido los carros están manejando y esas multas no es como una multa para estacionar el carro en un lugar, no es una ofensa criminal.
¿Cuándo sería aprobada ese 45 y cuándo entraría en vigor este programa?
¿Perdón?
¿Cuándo entraría en vigor este programa piloto? ¿Cuándo comenzaría?
Sí, 1 de enero del año 2024.
Si es aprobada.
Esa ley va a empezar, ese programa, puede empezar 1 de enero 2024. Pero depende de todo lo que pasa en Sacramento, ¿verdad? La ley tiene que pasar primero. Gracias.
Stay here in case you have other questions. I was going to answer the red light camera question. So the red light camera program was struck down for 2 reasons. Mostly because it was a lot of the photos that it was taken were people who were turning right on red, and it was very difficult for that particular camera to determine whether, and right on red is legal in California. So people were getting tickets for turning right, which is legal, rather than going through the red light, which is not. And so there was confusion about whether they were actually running the light or just making a legal right turn. So that was the primary reason. Also, that program was giving tickets starting at about $450 and going up. So people were very upset about getting these tickets without being able to sort of plead their case to a live officer. So there were a lot of problems with that program that made it unpopular and unenforceable, particularly the right on red, which we don't have with this, because with this program you have to be egregiously speeding, and the cameras are very capable of telling the speed that you're going. Sure. Yes. Of course. So the ACLU and other privacy groups don't like the use of cameras for any kind of enforcement. And they even acknowledge that this is probably the best designed camera program in the nation. And I want to be clear about this. We've been working on this bill for 4 years, and we have bent over backwards to address the very legitimate concerns about privacy. One thing I didn't mention earlier, the data that the photos from these cameras must be deleted within 3 days if no violation is given. So there's no retention of anybody's data. And if there is a violation, the data has to be deleted within 60 days. And that's to give anybody enough time to challenge one of the tickets if they want to challenge it. But after that, the photo is gone forever. So it can't be shared, it can't be retained. There's absolute lock boxes around just the fact that you received one of these tickets. It can't be shared with law enforcement in other areas. It can't go into a law enforcement database. So we have addressed the concerns that people have had about whether if they get a ticket, somehow their privacy is going to be compromised. Now, there are many cities that use cameras just for automated traffic parking tickets. So there's some cities that if you park, they take a photo of everybody's license plate, and they come back in a few hours and they take photos again. And if you're still there, you get a ticket. There's no guardrails set by the state around those programs, which are all across our state. We're hoping that this sets a new standard for how to use cameras, which are more and more in use by law enforcement and by private residences, to do it in a way that also respects people's privacy. Are there any other questions? If anybody would like us to bring the victims back up, we're happy to bring them up for any questions that any of you have with them. No one? Well, again, thank you so much for your interest. Thank you for coming out, and we hope that this helps get the word out about our efforts to try to save lives. Thank you. We want to do a photo with everybody.
Yeah, let's do a photo there. And then KFI calls.